And you know what's alarming is that the numbers have gone up, as you were saying. David Nazar, you're a reporter, you've been out there as well. You've talked to victims?
I did talk to victims, and Rick and Elizabeth, I've got to tell you, I learned a lot this week in researching and reporting on this story. I talked to victims, I talked to government leaders, cops, folks that run businesses, and they're all basically saying the same thing. They see human trafficking morphing into the fact that these women should not be criminalized. They're not criminals. They're saying they are the victims. I mean, even if you look at Los Angeles's gang warfare in an empire, where once these gang members were making tons of money off of drugs, they're actually trading that in for a cheap commodity, which they call women. You know, they're trading these women and making a ton of money off of this. I did also have a chance to speak to a Southern California nonprofit agency and see what they're trying to do to desperately help these women in need. Human trafficking is basically slavery, whether it's labor trafficking or sex trafficking. Oftentimes, young victims are kidnapped from their home country and brought here illegally to work on the street or as a servant for a family. And while this used to be more of an international problem, the number of American-born victims is increasing. According to this 5-year human trafficking victim report taken through last December, the number of American victims is 65%, while only 35% of those kidnapped for human trafficking are foreign-born. Dr. Sandra Morgan is a former administrator of the Federal Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force and the current director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. Morgan says the number of cases is increasing. In fact, the reported cases in 2013 are almost the same as 2011 and 2012 combined. Now the task force is fighting back.
In Southern California, we've had the opportunity to have a task force in Los Angeles, in Orange County, and in San Diego. Those are federal task forces. That means we've had resources devoted so that law enforcement and our prosecutors are taking cases, and every time we get a conviction, it increases the visibility of this in our communities. Funding is a key piece. We have to have funding in order to investigate and provide resources for trafficking victims.
Putting money toward rescuing victims is vital because women who are kidnapped and sold into slavery are often so traumatized they can't do anything to help themselves. Jim Palmer runs the Orange County Rescue Mission, which serves an area from Greater LA through OC into the Inland Empire.
There's 4 locations in the United States that have the highest levels of human trafficking, and Southern California is one of those.
Palmer says there needs to be a comprehensive approach to helping these victims restart their lives.
She doesn't need just a short exit plan. She needs a long-term exit plan. She needs to deprogram and get away from this concept of being imprisoned by a pimp or by a gang.
Rescue Mission Admissions Manager Doug Hellman explains how they transition victims away from their past.
We offer a program that is a back-to-work program, so that's a legitimate job. The training to keep that job, and the training to succeed after they've been through our program completely. All their meals are given to them. There's medical, dental, mental health, optometry, chiropractic. We've got all kinds of things from start to finish so somebody can come in from a desperate situation and leave a success.
Is this issue of trafficking overhyped? As you know, there are some critics who say this is nothing more than prostitution.
For me, the issue is not actually human trafficking. Human trafficking is a symptom of underlying social issues that we as a community, as a nation, and globally need to spend more time on.
The report also shows that social issues are risk factors for trafficking. Most of the victims have a history of physical, psychological, or substance abuse. Many have had a bad relationship with a parent or another family member, or they have a parent in prison. Many are from single-parent homes or live with a guardian, and a large number of human trafficking victims are homeless. And those who are runaways or high school dropouts are also more likely to be targets. And nearly 65% of victims are minors, age 17 and under, with almost 20% under the age of 14.
People are starting to recognize the fact that this is a huge, huge challenge in our community.
Challenge it is. And by the way, Rick and Elizabeth, so you heard Sandra Morgan in my story saying human trafficking is a symptom of underlying issues. So obviously I asked her as a reporter, well, what are these underlying issues? And basically she's saying, look, women and children have been marginalized. Their voice isn't heard. They're brushed under the rug. She also mentioned the fact that obviously being an international and a domestic problem, there's a lack of education, a lack of schooling for these women, particularly overseas. And finally, the common denominator, Elizabeth, poverty overseas and here at home. It's a way for girls sometimes to get out of poverty, and they just don't see what's going on, and they're imprisoned.
Great reporting, David Nazar. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, David.